My name is Jason Kowalski, and what happened to me at Willow Creek Regional Airport in the winter of 2019 still doesn't let me sleep through a full night. I need you to understand that I'm not someone who believes in ghosts. I flew for work almost every week. Airports were boring to me. Fluorescent lights, bad coffee, gate announcements. That's all this was supposed to be. My flight out of that tiny regional airport got delayed past midnight because of a mechanical issue, and by 1 a.m. the terminal had emptied out completely. Most small airports like this one shut down overnight. The shops pull their gates down. The restaurants go dark. By 1:30, it was just me, one gate agent named Carla who looked like she wanted to go home more than anyone I'd ever seen, and the hum of the vending machines. Carla told me the plane wouldn't push back until at least 4 a.m., maybe later. She apologized, handed me a meal voucher, and said something that I brushed off at the time. She said, just stay near the gates on this side. Don't wander toward the west corridor. Security doesn't monitor that wing after midnight. I laughed a little and asked why. She didn't laugh back. She just said, trust me, and went back to her desk. Of course, 2 hours later, bored out of my mind, phone at 11% battery, I got up to stretch my legs. And of course, without even meaning to, I drifted toward the west corridor. It was a long hallway connecting to gates that clearly weren't used anymore. The monitors were dark, the carpet was old and more worn. The overhead lights were on a slow flicker, buzzing every few seconds like they were struggling to stay lit. That's when I heard it. Footsteps behind me. Slow, deliberate, matching my pace, almost exactly like whoever was wanting me to know they were there, but didn't want to close the distance yet. I turned around. Nothing. Just the long, empty hallway stretching back the way I came, gate numbers fading into shadow. I told myself it was an echo. Airports do that, sound bounces strangely in these long tile corridors. So I kept walking a little faster now, and the footsteps kept pace a little faster too. I stopped completely. They stopped exactly half a second after me, like whatever was needed that fraction of a moment to react to my movement, like it was mimicking me rather than walking beside me. My chest was tight. My mouth had gone completely dry. I turned around again, and for just a moment, at the very end of the corridor near gate C41, I saw a shape. Not a full person. Just an outline standing perfectly still in the dark space where the hallway curved out of sight, like someone who had been standing there a long time waiting for me to notice. I didn't scream. I couldn't. My body just moved. I walked backward, keeping my eyes on that shape, and it didn't move either. It just stood there watching until the flickering lights dipped into a longer blackout, and when they came back and the shape was gone. I ran back to the main terminal so fast, I nearly knocked over a trash can. Carla looked up from her desk, saw my face, and didn't even ask what happened. She just said, "You went to the west corridor, didn't you?" It wasn't a question. I nodded, still catching my breath. And she sighed like she'd had this exact conversation before more than once. She told me that back in 2011, a maintenance worker named Curtis Boyle had been doing a late shift alone in that same wing when he vanished. No struggle, no note, nothing on the cameras that made sense. Footage from that era was grainy, and the west corridor camera had a dead spot right where the hallway curved near gate C41. One frame, he's walking toward that curve. The next frame, nothing. He was never found. Airport staff said after that people doing overnight shifts started reporting footsteps in that hallway, always following, never catching up. A few said they saw someone standing at the curve in the exact blind spot the camera couldn't reach. Carla said airport management quietly stopped assigning anyone to work that wing alone after 1 a.m. They didn't shut it down officially because that would raise questions they didn't want asked, but staff just knew. You don't go down there by yourself. That was the real reason she'd warned me. Not policy. Experience. I sat with her near the gate for the rest of that night, both of us silent most of the time, both of us watching that dark hallway entrance like something might come walking out of it into the light. Nothing did. Not that night. My flight finally boarded around 4:40 a.m., and I have never been so relieved to feel a plane leave the ground. I looked into it, Afterward, once I was home, once my hands had stopped shaking enough to type, Curtis Boyle's disappearance is real. It's in a local newspaper archive from that year, a short piece about an airport employee missing under unexplained circumstances case, still open, no leads. I found a follow-up article from a few years later, a single paragraph, saying the case remained unsolved and had gone cold. I don't fly out of small regional airports late at night anymore, if I can help it. And if I ever have to, I stay exactly where the lights are brightest, exactly where other people are, and I never ever wander down an empty hallway, just because I'm bored and curious. Some doors close for a reason. Some hallways go dark for a reason. And whatever is still waiting at that curve near gate C41, I don't think it's finished waiting. Hey, this happened to me at Cincinnati/Northern Kentucky International Airport. Still keeps me from sleeping in empty rooms. I used to think airports were just loud, bright, boring places. Fluorescent lights, bad coffee, tired people. I don't think that anymore. It was a Tuesday night in November. My flight got delayed, then delayed again, until the gate agent finally announced it was canceled. Rebooking wouldn't happen until 5 a.m. The terminal cleared out fast. Families left, businessmen left, and within an hour, I was almost completely alone near gate B14, my rolling suitcase, my only company. I found a row of chairs near a dark, closed newsstand and tried to get comfortable. The overhead announcement stopped. The rolling advertisement screens dimmed to save power. Somewhere far off, a floor buffer machine hummed then. That stopped too. Just me, the hum of the vents, and silence, so complete I could hear my own pulse in my ears. Around 1 a.m., I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming from the direction of the security checkpoint, which should have been closed gates, locked, lights off. I looked up expecting a janitor. Instead, I saw a woman in a TSA-style uniform, standing maybe 30 feet away, not moving, just watching me. "Ma'am, is everything okay?" I called out. No answer. She just tilted her head the way you'd look at something confusing, not something human. Then she turned and walked back through the checkpoint, through the metal detector frame, which wasn't even powered on. I told myself it was nothing. Overtired mind, weird lighting, maybe a real employee doing a late walkthrough. I put my head back against my hoodie and closed my eyes. That's when I heard my name. Not shouted, whispered, close, like someone leaning directly into my ear. "Kevin." I shot upright. Nobody was there. My suitcase hadn't moved. The corridor stretched out in both directions, empty under the dimmed lights. I grabbed my phone to check the time, 1:47 a.m. And that's when I noticed something that made my blood go cold. The security camera in the corner, the one mounted above the newsstand, had turned. Not the whole housing, just the lens, angled now directly at me, when a minute earlier it had been facing the corridor. Cameras don't do that on their own. I know that. I told myself I was wrong, that I'd misremembered its angle. I wanted so badly to believe that. I got up and started walking fast toward the food court, toward anywhere with light and the illusion of normal life. My footsteps echoed, strangely, like there was a half-second delay, like something behind me was matching my pace, just slightly offbeat. I didn't turn around. I couldn't make myself turn around. I reached the food court, and every gate was shuttered with metal grates, dark, empty. I sat under one of the only working lights back against the wall, so nothing could come at me from behind, and I waited for morning like a man waiting out a storm. At around 3 a.m., an airport employee, a real one badge, and all a heavy-set man named Gregory Pruitt, according to his name tag, came through doing rounds. I nearly cried with relief. I told him what happened. The woman, the whisper camera. I expected him to laugh it off. He didn't laugh. His face went still, careful, like a man choosing his words around a wound. He said, "You're not the first one to see her be 14 this year." Then he told me something I wish I could forget. Years back, a TSA officer had collapsed and died of a heart attack in that exact corridor alone on an overnight shift, and wasn't found for almost 3 hours. Employees had reported strange things near that checkpoint ever since: footsteps with no source, cold air that moved like it was walking, and a woman's shape near the metal detectors after midnight. Gregory said he didn't stay past 2 a.m. in that wing anymore if he could help it. He walked me to a lit gate area near the front of the terminal and told me to stay there until sunrise. I did. I didn't sleep. I sat with my back against the window, watching the dark tarmac, waiting for the sky to change color. When my rebooked flight finally boarded at 5 a.m., I didn't look back toward B-14. I couldn't. Something in me knew that if I looked, I'd see her standing there watching me go the way she'd watched me from 30 feet away in the dead of night. I flew home that morning and told myself I'd never fly through that airport again. I've kept that promise. I still fly, still travel for work, but every time a flight gets delayed late at night in some half-empty terminal, I feel my chest tighten, and I find a way to stay near the crowd, near the light, near anyone else who's still awake. Because now I know airports aren't empty at night. Not really. Some of the people still walking those halls checked in a long time ago and never checked out. If you ever find yourself alone in a terminal after midnight and you hear footsteps that don't quite match your own pace, don't turn around. Just walk toward the light and don't stop until you get there.